arrogance of the Americans, the bulliness of the Americans. Let me even throw it on the west side. America right now comes to Tanzania, comes to Ghana, comes to Zambia with 16 million. And guess what? 16 million only for Zambia. The 16 million, ask me, what is it for?
What is it for?
For human rights. Across the river, China and Russia coming to South Africa, ask me for what?
For what?
For a military training and skills sharing of security. So the Americans are more interested in a transgender, homosexual agenda around the world. They will invest their money and give you money to protect human rights. Russia and China are coming with weapons and militarization strategies so that we can protect ourselves. So I want to say this very loud and clear to the Americans. Continue on your transgender agenda. Stay there. Leave us to do politics on the other side. Because what we need right now is not a minority human rights activation. What we need is a societal transformation. And for you as Americans to think that we really envy that when you have an anti-lesbian, anti-gay, LGBT principle, then tourists would drop. Let me correct that once and for all, Sbu. And cut and clip this, and it must be loud and clear. Are you saying to me that all the tourists are gay? And when you hear that this is a non-gay zone, tourism will suffer? Question number one. Question number two. Are you saying that we don't have a right to expressing ourselves as Africans? Question number three. If democracy means majority rules and majority votes against a principle, then why won't you allow that to become law? Are you saying the minority must manage the majority or the majority must manage the minority? Then if that whole ideology is wrong, then take democracy in a nice black dustbin bag and throw it outside. Because what you are telling us is by the people, for the people, with the people, and all those slogans you hear, what democracy represents. If we are 10 in the room and 9 people say no, and one person says yes, democracy says you go with the majority. So if we say we want to make Africa democratic, and the demographics of our democracy says no, then why do you philosophically want to manipulate the will of the majority to favor the will of the minority? Then this is where it really gets confusing to me. Because you're selling me one thing on one. I understand this democracy because it is based on the principle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When it comes to practice, no, you can't practice it like that. Then what do you want? Do you want democracy? You want anarchy? You want indigenous governance systems? You want meritocracy? Maybe let's find another way of governing ourselves. But the ideology of democracy being founded on majority rule does not count. Because the rule that runs the South African Constitution right now is not majority count.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Super Pat, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carlton Jones, PC. We are here breaking down this video by Joshua Mapunga. And he's talking about his view on America pushing an LGBTQ agenda or human rights agenda in Africa, specifically Tanzania, Gambia, and Zambia, offering millions of dollars for these countries specifically to adopt the American human rights policies that they're pushing, as well as talking about helping them to establish democracy in their countries. So this is a multifaceted conversation, multi-layered conversation. We might be here for a minute, we might not. But Pat, I want to start with you because I know, I want to go ahead. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off right, Pat. So we had a chance to view the video, we had a chance to digest it, think about it. From what Mr. Mapunga is saying in this video, first of all, what are your overall thoughts about what Mr. Mapunga is saying about his view on America pushing the LGBTQ or a human rights agenda within Zambia, Gambia, and Tanzania?
Well, first off, how y'all doing?
Hey.
Yeah. To the audience, what's up?
What it is.
Next off, so this is one of the few videos I watched, and right after I saw it, because I like to try to keep my reactions like realistic. So I try not to watch it until we in the show. So my reactions be authentic. But in this situation, I watched it earlier and I spoke to both of y'all because I felt like this conversation was more complex than what was presented.
Mm-hmm.
And I know both you gentlemen felt the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to the drawing board and I started doing some research because I had done a show on USA back when I was doing lessons from the screen. So I'm very familiar with the aid discussion. But what this brother was doing was not having an aid discussion. He was trying to have a propaganda discussion. And the reason I say that is because one, he's comparing an aid deal with Zambia to what they have going on in South Africa. And he's trying to make a point based off those things. Like he started out by saying there was 12, I believe he said $12 million in aid offered to Zambia. Specifically for humanitarian human rights issues, right? Mm-hmm. Now we know that was about more than just the LGBTQ stuff, but that's what he wanted to highlight. That right there.
Right.
And then he started talking about how what they have going on in South Africa. Well, South Africa and Zambia are two different countries. So why are you bringing up what's going on in Zambia to introduce us to the problems you have with U.S. Policies in South Africa? Why not talk about the money that's going into South? Oh, because you know that the money going into South Africa, Russia and China ain't really competing with the amount of aid that's going into South Africa. Not only in terms of raw aid, but also in terms of two-way trade agreements. Because this is one of the things we talk about all the time. Go ahead.
So just to be clear, who is providing aid to South Africa?
The U.S. is providing aid to South Africa.
Okay.
And so is China's providing some aid to South Africa. All three of these nations are providing aid to South Africa. But the disparity in the amount of aid is what we have to talk about. And then we also have to talk about markets, because I'm of the belief that no country needs AIDS. They need markets. You need a place where you can get fair value for your goods. And that only happens in a market. And 10, 15, 20 years ago, we had leaders in African nations saying in the news, we need markets, not AIDS. I don't know why. Well, not because nobody needs, and that's your specialty, Joe. But I don't know why we've gone back into this space now where we arguing about who gives what aid for what. And when you look at the market, when it comes to South Africa specifically, the U.S. has a two-way trade street with South Africa to the tune of $13.2 billion. Russia has a two-way trade street to the tune of $2 billion. So you're talking about magnitudes more money being exchanged in terms of trade, two-way trade. So this conversation, just by virtue of that alone, blows up. So then I go back to, well, why is he making the point he making? And as a black person in America, should I even care? Because at this point, I'm at a standpoint. Look, we know, we all know that the U.S. is a two-faced hypocrite. We know that,
right?
That's a given. If you're still confused by that,
it's on you.
I don't know what to tell you.
That's on you. That's on you at this point.
You need to go try to swim through the Bermuda Triangle or something. I don't know what else to tell you. So like that, there's nothing new there for him to say, well, the United States is hypocrites. Okay, welcome to history. Like that's always been the case. And as black people in America, the fact that we can still be kind of like gaslit or emotionally driven into some sort of emotional state by people saying that, given our history with America, is just beyond me. Like that shit is amazing. how any black person in America can hear a black person somewhere else say America does this, but they say this, and we be like, that's crazy. Like, what? We should be like, all right, bro, like, keep it pushing. What else you got? So that's one thing, right? Like, but then you'll be like, all right, but then you also trying to make it out like Russia's the good guys. Like, why for? What for you do that for, Cletus? Like, what's the angle here? You know what I'm saying? Like it's akin to Democrats saying, black liberals saying that black people need to side with the Democrats. It's like, what? Why you trying to paint them to be the good guys? They just as shitty as these people over the look. U.S. aid and trade deals ain't have Africans going to the IMF and the World Bank's begging for assistance to get out of bad loans. China and Russia's doing that. So the U.S. say, all right, we'll give you this money, and we're going to use his analogy, even though we know it's more complicated than this, and I'm going to shut up soon. We're going to use his analogy, even though we know it's more complicated than this. The U.S. is saying, look, we'll give you $10 million if you stop killing people for having same-sex marriages, right? Russia is saying, look, we'll give you $1 million and teach you how to defend yourself. Never mind, why the fuck don't you know how to defend yourself? We're not even gonna get into that. How to defend yourself, but in return, we expect you to vote in our favor in geopolitical issues like Russia needs to get out of Ukraine, or at least abstain from those votes, and we want percentage interest on the money we give you. And so you look at two bad scenarios and you try to paint one of them as good. Like, what game is he playing is what I'm getting at. Why is Africa still so easily manipulated in terms of these games? Those are the questions that come to my mind. And why is he trying to emotionally spur anybody into action with arguments that are 40, 50 years old? And why are people being spurred into emotional action with arguments that are 40, 50, 60, 70, 100,000 million years old? These are the questions. And with that, I yield. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
There you go. It's PC. It's on you, my brother. What are your thoughts on this complex situation about America offering aid or offering money for human rights policies in the form of, LGBTQ rights? What are your overall thoughts on this and how it impacts these African countries and even the diaspora?
Well, first of all, I don't appreciate you using your questioning powers to ask me, when I asked all the questions.
Shout out to Ace Bang.
I mean, I can't really add much to what Pat said, man. This is basically pimps and hoes, and it's like, if I'm gonna keep it simple, man. If all a hoe know is how to be a hoe, then they're just gonna look for the next trick. And what this conversation is about right now is, going from one pimp to the next. I don't like how that pimp treated me. You treat me nicer, daddy. We need your protection now, and I think I can make more money with you. But Africa was defeated. Africa was defeated. I mean, we talk about the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where 7 European countries decided how they were going to chop up and carve Africa. Well, they didn't just do it and just walk over there. They put together a military plan, and they were then able to, colonize Africa. And Africa ever since has been on its knees, and this whole place that we see Africa in right now Africans still aren't trying to be free and liberated. They're not trying to operate from an independent place. They keep trying to operate off the nipple of a world power. So the question is why? Because, and I'm looking down as I wrote a few things. Like, first and foremost, because I agree with Pat about this, this whole push, this whole tugging on emotional heartstrings. At this point in time, we shouldn't be this gullible to fall into these arguments, to fall into these traps, these pitfalls. A lot of these countries have, African countries, period, whether you want to talk about the Congo, whether you want to talk about Ghana, whether you want to talk about Nigeria, whether you want to talk about Kenya, they produce either food stocks, precious minerals, and oil deposits, energy deposits, as well as being the most well-lit continent in the world. Meaning, if they never wanted to utilize the oil deposits for energy, they can maneuver and switch to solar power for the entire continent. And yet and still keep finding themselves in these places where they're becoming prostitutes of austerity, where other people can come in, other groups, other countries can come in and dictate policy to you because you're going to keep asking them for money that never gets to the people. So let me, so we could talk about the fact that there is a political push from America and European nations and NATO nations for this LGBTQ agenda. Let's say that if my house is sound and secure, I shouldn't need anything from you to maintain what's going on in my house.